Hello, everyone. Anumotana for all of you to have traveled so far to study Dhamma. Dhamma is, in fact, it's a truth that already stays in this world. It's everywhere. Even within a single leaf, there is Dhamma displaying there. If it's a new leaf just budding out, it's small and it starts to grow and it gets bigger and it becomes old and it falls away. Even within a single leaf, it can teach you Dhamma. Whether your mind can see it, that's another matter. In fact, Dhamma is everywhere. It's not in Thailand. It's not with me. If you understand the gist and principle of the teaching of Dhamma, you can develop. But if you don't understand the gist of the teachings of Dhamma, you can have a lot of trials and errors. You may interpret that this is the way Buddhists should practice, or that is the way to practice. But you're missing the core of the teachings of Dhamma principles. Someone used to ask Lord Buddha, if you want to distill all the teachings into one sentence, can we do that? So I said that, the Buddha said that there could be concluded into one sentence that everything, anything in this world should not be clinged to. As soon as you cling to, attach to anything, sufferings will arise. So if you have a family, you will feel love and worry towards them. So when you have a child, when a child disappears, they don't return home, you suffer. But if it's another child, your mind doesn't know them, so your mind doesn't suffer. So when someone you love passes, you suffer, you hurt, you feel the sorrows. If it's someone else you read in the news, if it's someone else passing, if you have a TV, nowadays do people still watch TV? So when you read the news about other people's passing, other people were at war, other countries are at war, 10, 20 people. You heard these news, you don't feel anything because you don't know them, because you don't feel attached to them. You don't have the suffering in the mind. When you have a house, you love your own house, you feel that the house belongs to you. As the house gets older, you feel worried because you cling that this house belongs to you. But if you stay at a hotel, this room, the water isn't running. You just move to another room. You don't really suffer much from this. So anything that you start to attach to, hold on to, you will suffer from that thing. Buddhism has taught with a focus to be liberated from the sufferings. First is to be liberated from sufferings, and the second purpose is for the full extinguishing of the suffering. In order to be liberated and to extinguish the suffering, you will have to not be attached to anything. So anything in this world, Lord Buddha said you should not be clinging to anything, because every time you cling to it, you will suffer. So the purpose of Buddhism is, for the most important thing, is how to be free from suffering. So that's the gist of Buddhism. So now you know that because you suffer, because you cling to something, in order to be free, you have to not have any clinging. It's easy to say not to cling to anything, but you cannot actually do it. You can say it. You can say you're not attached to even yourself. Anyone can say bad things to you, can scold you, can compliment you, but then when you actually not having the mindfulness, when you ask someone asks you something, you said your mind is free from it, but then suddenly your mind can get angry. A while ago in Bangkok, there was one master, เจ้าคุณอุบาลีคุณอุบาจารย์ He was a master following Luangpu Man. He was at Temple Paromniwat in Bangkok. And there is one lady, a noble lady, a high-class lady. She said she doesn't have any anger. She doesn't cling to anything anymore. So when you say this, it's either you are a non-returner or you are an arahant. She said that she doesn't have any anger. So he said, "You liar." So she scolded her, liar. So the non-clinging, the non-angry person gets so angry and started to scream and shouted back at the monk, said, "What a monk! How could you say this to me?" And she walked out. And then after a few days, she realized she had to come back and apologize to the monk. So the words are easily said, but really difficult to be done. In order to be not clinging, not holding on to anything, you can only do it when you truly see that these attachments, these clinging, bring sufferings to you. So when you see that the house is a burden, when you rent a house, when the house is destroyed, you go rent another house. But if it's your own house, if it's flooded, if it's on fire, you cannot run away because it belongs to you. So when you have that wisdom that grows stronger, you see that having a house, it's a suffering. You have a car, you suffer from it. Some people can see that as the parents get older, you never even help bathe your parents, never did it. But when you buy a car, you keep washing it, rinsing it because you're afraid of the dust speck would be falling on your car. See, having a car becomes a burden. Having a child is a burden. Isn't it true? If you have a child, can you be equanimous, be indifferent about their well-being, their livelihood? See, it's all a burden. So if you see the sufferings, whatever that is there, if you see that these things, anything in this world, they are impermanent, they're always under oppression to change, and it's not under your control. Until you truly see this, you'll be free from it. That means you see the sufferings, you see the nonsensical in everything in this world. That's when you will be truly liberated. You can always say this, but it's actually only, you can only talk the talk, but you cannot walk the walk. So in your mind, you actually have a misconception. You don't see the truth that anything in this world should not be clinged to, should not be attached to. Why? Because the moment you start to cling, that's the moment you start to suffer. So try to notice when you have a new piece of clothing, you have a new one tailored made for you. You walk down the road and someone walked close to you. You were afraid of someone causing the clothes to get dirty or to get torn. See, Even a piece of cloth could make you suffer, but if you can see that one day it will get torn, it will get old, if you can see this, when the clothes, the beautiful clothes that you have, as it gets old, it start to look bad, you feel all right, that it's normal. You understand Dhamma. Dhamma means natural, normal. So when you fully understand it, you'll be no longer clinging to anything. In order to understand Dhamma, you have to see that everything is impermanent, it's suffering, and it's non-self. How do you how do you see this? How to practice in order to see this, that everything in this universe are subject to these three marks? So Lord Buddha had taught us that the principles for to teach us all of this, the practice, in order to see all these three marks, in order for us not to be attached to them. So once you practice and you see the truth about all this, that you should not attach to anything. You will not have to try not to be attached to it. The mind itself will not cling to it because it's so wise. The mind will get so wise because none of these things should be attached to, because you cannot attach yourself to it. It will always be impermanent. It will be there temporarily. It comes and it will always go. So Lord Buddha taught us the program in order to be free from sufferings. So this is the foundations of mindfulness. Foundations is the main road, is the only road for purification, for liberation. So what we need to understand is to understand the four foundations of mindfulness. So the foundations of mindfulness is Dhamma that is not talked about. Most people would talk about other things. Most people neglect this most important thing that will be allowing you to be free from sufferings. So the first step in order to study, first you need the mind that being aspired to fight this journey, to go through this journey. As long as you have the defilements, you will not stop practicing. As long as the wholesomeness, the morality, samadhi, and the wisdom are not complete, are not full, we will not abandon the practice. It's the diligence, it's the perseverance. This diligence, it doesn't mean being dutiful at the practice. The root of the words is vira. Vira means brave. It's like the brave people who are warriors. The brave warriors means those are brave. So the first one is to build your aspiration, to be brave, to be determined, to be resolute, to fight the defilements. You have to be strong to develop the wholesomeness, to make it complete, to make it full. So most people, they love themselves. They are scared. They are cowards. They go to do the sitting meditation, to do the walking meditation. They're afraid of the hardship. That's because the mind is weak. They are not diligent. They're not resolute. They're always feeling discouraged. How do you build this resolution? It takes some faith. It starts with the faith and the diligence and the mindfulness and then the wisdom. This is the full circle. In order to make it, the faith has to arise. So the lay person, this faith could still be flaky. It could be good one day and bad another day. So you have to keep training over time to have the confidence in the three gems, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. How to build this confidence, this faith or confidence. You study about all the venerables, all these people who have became the purified person. They all had fought. They had to go through and fight their defilements, but they trained themselves relentlessly, giving it all, never afraid of the hardship. So they developed themselves. to the point where they liberated from defilements. They full of wholesome, with the morality, samadhi, and the wisdom. It's complete, it's full. You read about them, you see how they actually won these wars. You contemplate about these masters. Every masters in the past, they had their own defilements. How did they do it? If they could do it, we could do it. We are humans too. You have one head, two hands, two feet, just like them. If they could do it, you have to be able to do it. So, try to encourage yourself to fight with this laziness, to discouragements, to the weakness in you. So now, you start with these contemplations to help you turning faith. So all my masters, all my teachers, they are like such wonderful, amazing, brave warriors to fight with their defilements. They could go on the pilgrimage in the forest, in the mountains, starving themselves for days. They never felt discouraged. They would just stay in the forest. They could starve to death. They could fall off the mountains. They could get injured. They would continue to walk. Otherwise, you die in vain. These masters that went out on their pilgrimage to see other masters in order to understand and study more Dhamma, in order to train themselves to become strong. So you look at the biographies of all these masters. It's so impressive. So during the Buddha's time, there was one monk before the Buddha. So they went around to look for the Buddha when the Buddha would emerge, would ask for all the merchants who travel between cities. So when there is any major news, one day the merchant came and say the Buddha had emerged, Dhamma had emerged, and Sangha had emerged in this world. That king heard about that news and sent someone to tell the wife who still stay in the palace that he said he's not returning back to the palace today. He started the journey to see the Buddha. So the king had such a resolute mind to go seek the Buddha, and he met with the Buddha and he got enlightened in a short time. There's no free lunch. If you want to achieve something good, you have to suffer, you have to fight for it. Even just to make money, you still have to fight. If you want to transcend from this world, you have to fight. There's no room for the weak, for the discouraged ones. There's no easy way out of the sufferings. So you be resolute, be brave, be determined. So another thing to help you become this. So you have to hang out with the people who are strong, who have the resolutions. So the Buddha said, whoever are your friends who you surround yourself with, you become that kind of person. If you surround yourself with drinkers, gamblers, you become a drinker or a gambler. But if you hang out with the friends who are determined, who are resolute with their practice, so someone feel discouraged, another one would encourage the person to continue. So, and vice versa. So that you fight together. This is the true friend, the good friend. This is the friend in samsara to travel with you. I had my good friends like this. This friend of mine, who's also really good practitioner, who's really good together with me, but he didn't want to get ordained, but he didn't want to go further. So when we went to see the masters together, so when we practice together. So at night, when we were do the sitting meditation together, when I wanted to give up, he didn't want to give up. So we support each other, we lean on each other. So when someone gets a new perspective of Dhamma, gets to see something more refined, we would share with each other. So having good friends for your practice would help you become stronger. When someone has more confidence, more faith, will bring to another person. When you have the resolution, when you have the courage, whatever happens in life, you will fight. It's not about escaping. So when I told you to do the walking meditation for 3 hours, a lot of people fight. They would go and do it. When they started to do it, once they can do 3 hours, and the mind has transformed so much because the mind was brave, was resolute. Some people would hurt 3 hours, they feel so discouraged. So how are you going to fight with your own defilements? Defilements already had overtaken you. It's the weakness, it's the discouragement. So the brave ones fight. At first, they might be able to do half an hour. After a while, they can get to an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Actually, in the past, all the masters in the past, they would walk for 10 hours, walking till dawn. So if you feel strong and fight and stick to it, how do you do this? The first step is upholding your morality, the precepts. The second step is to develop the mind, develop samadhi. It's the training of the mind. And the third step is to develop your wisdom, your insight. Developing the concentration or samadhi is for the mind to have the energy, the power to be calm, sufficiently calm and energized, fresh, and develop it further. After the first stage, samadhi, it's for the mind to be stable. So the mind becomes an observer, luminous, vibrant. And the mind, once it's stable, then you can cultivate wisdom. When you can fully cultivate wisdom, you achieve the noble path and fruitions, and you eventually reach Nibbana. So in this process, the initial stage, in order to develop the morality, the mindfulness, and the wisdom, you first need the mindfulness. Without mindfulness, you will never have the true morality, samadhi, and wisdom. So the precepts will actually be easily tainted, but when you have the mindfulness, even though without the intention, the mind would observe the morality on its own. So the first stage is the mindfulness that needs to be developed. How do you do it? You need the foundations of mindfulness. So once you do this, you get the mindfulness. And then the second step, once you have the mindfulness, the correct kind of samadhi will arise on its own. When you have the mindfulness and samadhi, then the wisdom would occur automatically, will arise automatically. Once you have the wisdom, the noble path and fruitions will arise. So this is like steps of the progress in order to train yourself. In order to have the mindfulness initially, you have to have the determination to observe the 5 precepts. So I told you, maybe you confused that if you have mindfulness, you have the precepts. What does it mean? So initially, when the defilements are still very strong, so you don't have the strong mindfulness, you may do bad deeds through speech or actions. You can scold others or hit others. So then you have to promise to yourself that you're gonna observe the precepts with a determination not to taint the 5 precepts. You only need 5 precepts. Don't look for more. Don't try to decide to do more. 5 is enough for you to start to achieve the first and the second level of a noble person, the stream enterer and once returner. The 8 precepts are good for the third stage, for the non-returner, for the level of the noble person. So once you reach the non-returner level, the more you practice, you eventually achieve Nibbana, Arahant. So first, start to have the intention to observe the precepts. If you violated any of the precepts, it's okay, don't cry. Just come back and said you try to observe the 5 precepts again, not to be making the same mistakes again. And then the next step, start to do the cultivation of mindfulness. The foundations of mindfulness is to be aware of your body and mind, becoming aware of your body, and then started to see the feelings, happy, unhappy. And then the third stage is the formations, good or bad, wholesome, unwholesome. And the fourth level is to be mindful of the mind itself. And then the fourth level is to see Dhamma, to see the truth. So these are the stages of the developments. So those who are already very strong in their faculties, you don't need to start with the 4 steps. You can just go straight to the 4th stage, but it's really hard. So it's a mindfulness of Dhamma. So Lord Buddha would start to see, observe, to see what exists, the sufferings will arise. So the birth, what is birth? It's because the mind started to grasp the mind or the sense doors, like the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body. It's not about thinking, you have to see it. A lot of times, people who who study a lot of text, they would just try to understand Paticca Samuppabbad. It's actually not about thinking, but the foundations of mindfulness is actually the main road, the only road. It's not thinking. In order for you to see the states, to see the phenomena, see the mind, grasping the sense doors, the moment the mind starts to grasp these sense doors, because the mind still has the mental formations, the good mental formations, the bad mental formations, it becomes us, the self arises. This moment that arises, the moment that you grasp the mind, that's when self arises. That's what say the mind start to hold on to the mind. This is the level of the Buddha. It's really hard. You can study later. Study yourself, doing the foundations of mindfulness. Be aware of your body. And then over time, you will be seeing all these, the Four Noble Truth clearly. So just like when I study, Luangpu Dun taught me to start at the 3rd level, to observe the mind, to be mindfulness of the mind. So I was becoming aware of the body. The mind becomes angry, I was aware. The mind was greedy, I became aware. When this anger or the greed disappear, I become aware. When the mind is deluded, the mind is lost, the mind become aware. The mind is aware. I knew it, and then it disappeared. Everything disappeared. I started with the mind. So as you kept observing, all the minds arises and they will ceases. The greedy mind arises, it ceases. The angry mind arises and it ceases. So the mind that is deluded arises and becomes aware. Even the aware mind, it arises and it falls away. The scattered mind arises and falls away. The sorry, sad mind arises and falls away until one day it becomes clear that it's subject to the 3 marks. It's impermanent, it's suffering, and it's non-self. It's not thinking, you have to see. So some people said observing the mind is too refined, it's too subtle. So you can observe something that is more obvious, more coarse. So during the day, you feel happy, unhappy all day. If you could see, observe this. If you could see the mind feeling happy and unhappy all day, At this moment, can you feel that your mind is happy, unhappy, or indifferent? And then over time, the wisdom will arise. Happiness or unhappiness, they're all temporary. Even the equanimity, the indifference are also temporary. Happiness are temporary. Sufferings are temporary. It comes and goes. The delusion, the scattered mind, or the equanimity arises, and then you equanimous for temporarily, and then another moment it becomes happy and unhappy again on its own. So when I did this, I combined these feelings together with the mental mind, mindfulness. So I read my mind eventually. I would see the happy unhappiness arises. One moment good, one moment bad, sufferings and happy. Sometimes I try to be mindful of the feelings. Sometimes you see that it's good, sometimes it's bad. I see both the feelings and the mind itself. I would see the two things together. Happy, unhappy, one thing. You see wholesome, unwholesome, and non-wholesomeness and non-unwholesomeness. After a while, you see everything arises and falls away. It's not under control. It's non-self. Everything arises because of its conditions. It has its own cause and repercussion, and the wisdom would grow over time until you truly understand the nature, the truth, Dhamma, that actually become aware. If you study the mind, you start to understand the body too. The mind is the master, is the principal, and commands the body to do this and that. So once, if you cannot see this, don't be scared. Observe the body. Observe the body. The body is easily observed. The mind is so hard to observe. So what Luangpu taught me to observe the mind, it's really, really hard. It's not the true mind. You just see that the happy, unhappy mind arises and falls away. So wholesome, unwholesomeness arises and falls away. So when the mind has more power, more energy, you see that this happiness and the mind, the wholesomeness and the mind are separate things. You could see that the aggregate separate, and then you start to see the mind that is not tainted by any formations, by any fabrications. You see the mind itself arises and falls away. It one moment the mind is aware and stable. Another moment the mind moves to the eyes to see the image, moves to the ears, to the nose, to the tongue, to the body, to the mind. You start to see the mind deeply through the sense doors. You start to see the mind arises at one door and falls away at that point. At first, I start to see the mind is moving, and then I hear something. There's something inside my chest moving. Observing after a while. So I asked Luangpu Dun, what is it that is the mind is staying there? But I didn't dare to say that the mind is staying inside my chest. The mind is situated there. The mind is located there. So I asked Luangpu, where is the mind located? Inside my mind. The mind felt that it's inside the chest because I felt the vibrations inside the chest. Luangpu told me there is no locations of the mind. So I was confused. There is no location of the mind. So how do we observe it? So after a while, I gradually understood that there is no permanent location of the mind. If the mind arises at the eyes, it ceases at the eyes. If the mind arises at the nose, it ceases at the nose. If the mind arises at the tongue or the body, it ceases at that location. The mind arises at wherever it is, it ceases at that location. So initially, I couldn't see it because the mindfulness and samadhi were still insufficient. So I couldn't see it. Would see that the mind moves here and there to the doors of the sensual contacts. So there's just only one mind moves here and there. And then over time, after my practice, and then the mind as an observer would see become the observing mind, the observer mind arises and falls away. If it arises at the eyes, it falls away, it's there, it ceases there. And then the mind becomes aware. At the mind, it becomes aware and it arises and falls away. The mind that listens, it arises and ceases. These are different minds that just the moment the mind becomes aware, that's one mind. Another moment the mind listens, it's a different mind. That's different mind. These two things are not the same thing. It's not one mind that runs all over the places. There is this one stable observer, and there's something arises over there, and another observing mind arises, and then there is no location permanent for a mind. Everything is temporary. So at the temple, there is one monk can start to see that the mind, it just keep flickering. It's countless number of minds. Each mind that arises, and there's just one space in between these moments are separated out. If you could start to see this, you will see these refined moments that arise. So the easiest part for you to do it, to be aware of your body. The mind is so good at wandering off, but the body never wanders anywhere. So it's the mind that is gone somewhere else and not becoming aware of the body. So don't try to fabricate your mind. Can you feel that the body is sitting? Is it hard to see the body sitting? It's not that hard, right? Can you see that the body breathing out, the body breathing in? If you become aware, it's not hard. But you actually not trying to observe. You try to observe something else. You're trying to hear some other people. You want to smell this or that. You want to taste this or that. It's because you actually neglecting the body. You forget about the body all the time. So you're listening to me. So once you understand, you're nodding. Are you aware that you're nodding? Can you feel that your body is moving because your mind is lost? You're thinking because, that's Luangpo saying something I understood. Your body is moving, you're not even aware. So in order to practice the foundations of mindfulness, become aware of your body. That's the easiest part. Just keep breathing. Do observing it. The body is moving, become aware. The body is sitting, become aware. When you do the walking meditation for 3 hours, it's not for you to just keep walking with a stressed or wandering mind. See the body walking, observing it. Don't control. Don't over focus on the body until the body or the mind gets so stressed. Just feel it. Feel it. Don't over focus. Don't fixate on something. That don't be so serious, otherwise you feel too stressed. So at this moment, can you feel the body sitting? Just feel the body sitting. You don't have to prepare and adjust your posture. No, don't be crazy like that. It's a waste. You see the guy in the green mask, you're nodding, but you forget the body nodding when the body is moving. So practice as the body moves, become aware. And then after a while, the mindfulness will arise automatically. When the mind is lost and you turn, the mindfulness will arise. Oh, then you realize that you forgot about the body the moment ago. It's not about forbidding you to forget the body, but don't forget it for too long. So when you practice movements of the body, so become aware. So when you become aware of the body often, the moment you start to move the body, you get the mindfulness. So when you have the mindfulness, as you follow this track, once you get the mindfulness arises from observing the body, continue the observation, feel the body, and then you see something that is inside the body, is the feelings, happy and happiness inside the body, hiding in the body, and you feel the itch, you feel the body's sufferings, unhappy. So For non-practitioner, when they feel the itch, they just scratch. But if you're a practitioner, you see the itch arising in your body. You feel like, can you scratch? Yes, of course. There's no need for you to tolerate without scratching. So then you become aware. In the next step, you start to observe the feelings. That's the second step of foundations of mindfulness. If you sit for a long time, your body is aching, your back is aching. You might feel numb in your legs. If you're sitting meditate for a long time, you feel the numb in your legs. You see the body, the legs, and the numbness are separate things. The body is sitting there, is walking. This aches, this numbness, this itch arises after these two feelings and the body are separate things. You start to see the sensations, the feelings in the body. And then you see that the feelings in the body is something else, it's not us. It's something else that is not us. It's something being observed. Keep observing like this. And then you start to feel the ache in the body, and then your mind started to suffer. So you start to move from the feelings in your body to the feelings inside your mind. So that's the third step. That's the next step. You start to see the feelings in the mind. The mind starts to feel unhappy too. When the body is not well, the body is not happy. You see the changes in the mind. Initially, the mind is indifferent, and then this moment, the mind feels unhappy. And now the mind feels happy at this moment. The mind feels unhappy at another moment. You start to see the feelings in the mind. So start observe the body. The next, you see the feelings inside the body, and then you start to see the feelings in the mind. And then the body is happy, the mind is happy. When the body is unhappy, the mind is unhappy. When the eyes come to contact with a beautiful flower, with a beautiful ocean, the mind is happy. The mind, you become aware that the mind is happy. Now you start to see the feelings of the mind. So when you come to contact with something that you like, you feel happy in the mind. So when you come to contact with something that is just meaningless, you feel indifferent. So when something comes to, you can have happy, unhappy, and indifference or equanimous mind. So in the third stage, it's about mindfulness of the mind. So the mindfulness of the mind, the contemplation of the mind. So when you have greedy, you will see that you have greed, and you see something in there that you dislike it. This dislike is actually a kind of aversion. You come to contact with something that these contact is something that you like. You have the like and the dislike and the indifference. This is the mental fabrication. You see the mental formations. So once you start to see the mental formations, which is inside the mind, it's not only like, dislike, and indifference. There are many other things. There are so many states. You may feel the envy. When someone practices better than you, you feel envious. This is not the body. This is not happy or unhappiness. But this is the mental formation. You feel the envy. You feel envious. You feel loving towards someone. You feel hateful towards someone. These feelings just keep rotating inside your mind. One moment it's good, another moment it's bad. So when you listen to Dhamma and you feel good, this is a wholesome mind. And if I don't stop and you needed to go to the restroom, you feel angry. So initially, it's just like this. This is the initial stage of my practice. I observe the mind, see the anger, the greedy, and then you see the mind, whether liking or disliking or indifferent. So at this stage, once you move to the next level, you see that these mind objects, the mental factors that arises, is not the mind itself. They are all temporary. They are also subject to the three marks of existence. The mind can separate out from the feelings. Happy, unhappy, come back to the mind. Coming back to the mind, you see that the mind itself are temporary, are impermanent. It arises at the six sense doors, and you see the function, the process of the function of the mind. When there's some stimulus at the eyes, it arises at the eyes. Stimulus at the ear, it goes to the ears. You see that the mind would arises and falls at the six sense doors. So as you see all these, you see that the mind cannot be controlled. It's not us. You started to see, become aware of the mind. You see as it more and more subtle, more refined. Before the defilements arises, you have to see there are levels of defilements. What you see, actually, it's just like the tip of the iceberg above the ocean. You only see a little bit. You thought you see a little bit. Underneath the surface of the water, there's like a huge amount. When you see the greed, the anger, the delusion, it's actually the tip of the iceberg. But underneath the water, there is this just a lot of hindrances, a lot of natural temperaments that you are. Don't be scared of these. Whatever arises that you can observe, just observe that. There's no need to dig underneath the water to see any of these. Just become aware whatever you can see. And one day you will understand. When you understand, when you see these hindrances, these are the blocking from all the wholesome things to arise. When you have the hindrances, when you actually like the sensual pleasures, would you be diligent at your practice? No, you just keep thinking about your bed. This is a more subtle defilements. It's the hindrances. It's blocking all the wholesome deeds to arise. So there are some defilements. It's something that attach, that hold your minds to it. There are so many kinds of defilements. So observe whatever that arises for you to observe. Just observe it. Be mindful of it, and then you see the workings of the mind. So when you understand, when you try to do the contemplation of the mind objects, it's about understanding about the process of the work. When you see the contemplation of the hindrances, so when you see the anger, you see for the simple one, you see this moment, you're angry. So the next level, when you fully understand it, you see what causes this anger. It comes to contact with something you dislike, and your mind is used to getting angry, and you get the anger that arises. You start to see these refined, subtle things. So the contemplation of the mind objects is the fourth level of mindfulness practice. It's so hard. It's about seeing the hindrances that blocking for the good things to arise. So there is also the enlightenment factors. This is the factors on the good side for the mind to develop for liberations. So the most subtle, refined things for the contemplation of the mind object, it's about seeing the Four Noble Truths. You see the sufferings. You see that the five aggregates are the sufferings. The desire is the cause of sufferings. And then the cessation of sufferings is the end of sufferings. And the noble path is the path to end the sufferings. This is so hard. Once you achieve the non-returner level, you can come back to study. You haven't achieved that stage. You cannot understand these Patijassamuppabat. You can remember the text, but you will not have the wisdom to eradicate the defilements. So these studies of this conditional arising it's really hard and at very sophisticated level. So just mindful of the body and mind. As you become better at this, you make progress. Is it too hard? So as you develop continuously, you see the truth that this body and mind does not belong to you. This is the initial stage of wisdom, that you see the body and mind is not us. There is not us. Is the first wisdom that you achieve at the stream entry level. So you see, even though it's not us, but it doesn't mean you stop clinging to it. It's almost like you rent a house. You know it's not your house, but you have decorated it, and you ask yourself to move away from it because the owner wants it back. You're going to have to fight. The mind and the body are the same, even though you see it's not us, but you're still clinging to it. Clinging even though you know it doesn't belong to you. But the moment that you know it's not us, it's that wisdom that you achieve at the stream entry level. So keep practicing your foundations of mindfulness. On some day when the mind is powerful, you can see the mind itself. When the mind doesn't have enough energy, you cannot observe the mind. Just observe the body. See the body moving. But if you cannot, just go back to samatha practice. Just keep breathing, reciting Buddha, staying with one object continuously. The mind will become calm and start to get energized. And then you could come back to wisdom cultivation. So the more you practice, you start to see the truth that is more subtle, more refined. So once you achieve the stream entry level, you see the body and mind is not us, and you become aware of the body. After some time, you see that the body is the sufferings. A lay person would see that the body is sometimes happy, unhappy. Even a stream enterer would see that at some moment the mind's happy, some moment the mind's unhappy. The once returner sees still the same thing, happy and unhappy moments in the body, until one day the mind has sufficient energy. You start to see that the body is the suffering. Most of the people who could not achieve at this level will feel that the body is either happy or unhappy. And then at that stage, you see that the body is full of sufferings. It's either a little sufferings or a lot of sufferings. And the mind would just no longer cling to the body. There will be no cravings to make the body permanent, to make body good. There's no clinging to the body. At that stage, the mind is free from clinging to the body. So there's no clinging to all the sensual contacts, eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body. So that's the wisdom at the level of non-returner level. So first, the lay person, the stream entry, once returner, they are different from the non-returner level. There's no attachment to the sensual pleasures. There's no jumping, clinging to something that comes to contact to the sense doors. Our mind, the lay people's mind, is like a dog. When you see a piece of bone, you jump at it, you go fetch it. When you are a non-returner, you can see a naked lady in front of you, the mind would not move towards that lady. This happiness that arises inside the non-returner, it's at the level of Brahma realm. So as the non-returner lets go of the body, the mind who comes back to the mind itself, would study its own mind, would not give up. So when they become aware, it will come to study the mind continuously. See one moment, good, bad, and see the three marks of the existence all the time. And then the mind to start to understand that the mind itself is the sufferings. It's a little bit of sufferings or a lot of suffering. It's the same concept that you understand the body. It's a little sufferings or a lot of sufferings. At the final stage, you see that the mind itself is the suffering, is The most difficult one is the hardest one to observe. Even the happy mind is the suffering. It's so refined, it's so subtle. Once at that moment you fully understand, the mind will no longer cling to the mind itself. That's the final wisdom stage of an arahant. Don't imagine an arahant. It's like not some image of someone who's dressed in something strange who could fly. That's just a trick. That's just a trick for someone to imagine this. For someone who's just still not so wise to understand this. There's no arahant. There's no non-returner who could come and rescue you. You can only train yourself to become a monk yourself. So then your mind becomes Sangha yourself. That's when you achieve Arahant, your mind will become one as the same mind as the Buddha. Someone used to see a master, คุณแม่จันดี she was the sister of หลวงพ่อ หลวงตามหาบัว Okay, I think it's beyond your comprehension. So let's come back to this. So first, in conclusion, observe the morality, the precepts, and then practice your mindfulness. If you can observe the body, observe the body. If you're good at observing the feelings, or if you could observe the mind, or if you could see the mind arising and ceases at all the sense doors, and one day eventually you understand, you start to understand that there's no self. Eventually, you fully understand whatever that exists are all sufferings. When you truly see all the sufferings, the mind will let go. The mind will stop clinging. There will be no burden of the mind. The mind will become empty. It's not the emptiness or the void that you can imagine. You just think about nothingness. But when the mind is empty, it's the existence. There is nothing there. When you achieve at that stage, when the mind is at that stage, when I look at you guys, do you exist? But it's all emptiness. But the emptiness that arises from your thought or from samadhi, it's just the opposite of busyness. It's different kind. The language can say the same words, it's the same emptiness, but the actually state of the mind are completely different. So continue to practice. One day, your mind and Buddha's mind will be one. The mind is Buddha. It's the same one thing. So คุณแม่จันดี initially, can you see that the mind and the Buddha are the same? That masters told คุณแม่จันดี that Dhamma and Buddha and our mind, Dhamma and the mind are one thing. So that monk, that master had so much respect for the Buddha. He would just only observe Dhamma and the mind are the same thing. So คุณแม่จันดี said it's also the same thing with Buddha as well. So that master came back to the temple and started to observe what is Buddha. Buddha is not the body of the Buddha. The body of the Buddha is the same thing as our body. It aging and it died. What is the true Buddha? It's the virtues that makes him Buddha. It's these virtues. Lord Buddha had so much compassion, has infinite compassion So he observed himself. He didn't have the same kind of infinite compassion. He saw the Buddha that he could enlighten on his own, and this master could see that there's no way that he could got enlightened on his own. And then he thought about the Buddha again. So the Buddha had the purity of the mind. And then he observed himself that he could observe the purity. So there is one thing that's equivalent that can be compared with the Buddha is the purities. However, the level of wisdom and compassion are not the same, not at the same level as the Buddha, but the purities of the mind are at the same level. So this is such a strange thing. I guess I am just telling you these anecdotes for you to not get sleepy after breakfast. Any questions? Anything that you have in mind? Just know that you are curious. You have questions, don't ask. If you study Dhamma by asking questions, it won't help. So in the past, when I was teaching, I started teaching since the BE 2527, 1990, 41 years ago. Some students would understand. A lot of you guys would understand from memory, would memorize that Dhamma is like this or that, but don't understand to the mind. It only goes to the brain, to the memory. So recently, I told everyone to just go do the walking meditation. So it's about the practice with the right principles. For when you walk with mindfulness, you do sitting meditation with mindfulness. So this is mindfulness simply means don't be absent from the meditation object or not controlling the object. So if you see the body walking, you see the body walking and the mind is observing it. But if the mind has moved to think about something else, the mind forgets the body, become aware of it, become aware that the mind is not with the body. The mind will come back to the body on its own. If you try to feel the body, walking or sitting, the mind will feel tight or congested. The moment you feel that, you're doing it with a greed. You just have to understand when the mind is escaping and you pull it back, you feel the tightness, the congestion. In that moment, when you do this, be mindful of it. What does it mean? The moment you practice, try to feel the existence of the body, of the mind. Just keep feeling it. If the mind has moved to something else, to think about something else, and then forget about the body and the mind, if you become mindful of it, become aware of it often, the moment you lost, you become aware on your own. So then that's automatic mindfulness. Keep doing this. And then another mistake that you do is just to overfocus. It's the opposite of the mind that is lost. The mind is lost, is moved somewhere else. But overfocusing is just to overfocusing on the meditation object. For example, observing the body breathing, you're overfixating at the breath. When you're walking, you over-focusing on the body, and it gets tight, it feels congested. So the middle path means don't be lost and don't try to control it. Be mindful of the body and the mind as they truly are. And then you start to see. And then you see that the body and the mind are all subject to the three marks of existence. And you understand more and more that it's not us. It cannot be controlled as you start to practice. Furthermore, you see that the body and mind are themselves the sufferings. And that's when you see the noble truth, the Four Noble Truths. If you see the body and the mind that they are the sufferings, that you start to understand the Noble Truth. So all these five aggregates, the body and the mind, to say it in a obvious way, all the rupa and nama, everything are sufferings. So as you become fully aware and clear that the body and mind are always sufferings, that's when you understand sufferings. The moment you understand sufferings, the cause of sufferings will be extinguished automatically, will cease automatically. There's no need to get rid of the sufferings. Once you understand, for example, you understand that the body is the sufferings. When you understand that, you will not hold on to the body. The desire to be free from sufferings in the body is impossible. And once you understand the truth, you will no longer hold on to the body. If you understand that the mind itself is sufferings, there's no need for the mind to be happy, to stop being unhappy. There's no attachment, no clinging to the body or to the mind. And then Nibbana will arise in front of you. So if you want to achieve Nibbana, you have to do it until there's no longer cravings. When the Nibbana is complete, it's right in front of you. Everything are the same, are equal. It's the emptiness. There's nothingness there. What you achieve, and in happiness that cannot be compared. All the happiness in the worldly sense. I had my money, I had a house, I had a wife, I had happiness. In the worldly sense, I understood the worldly happiness. But after practice, you see the higher level of happiness. Practice. Observe the 5 precepts and be mindful. Observe the body and mind, and your mind will develop. That's it for today. It's 10:30. It took me a long time to finish teaching in time. Wish you all happiness. Be diligent with your practice, and you will be able to experience the true happiness. The worldly happiness is temporary. The happiness that arises from Dhamma is the true happiness. It's calm, cool, nothing can be compared to.